Hello, everyone. Welcome to a special version of a noodle making class today. My name is Akirami. I work for Yamato Manufacturing Company, and we are broadcasting live from our headquarters in Kagawa. For those of you who don't know where Kagawa is, please Google it later. Let's get started. So first, what we're gonna do is that we're gonna get into lecture part, which can be a bit boring, but I'm gonna do my best. We're gonna talk about ramen today, ramen noodles, how the ramen noodles made, and yeah, and then lecture part, and we're gonna get into ingredients that are used for ramen noodles, and then noodle making processes, and we're actually gonna make one type of noodle today, which is Hakata style Tonkotsu noodles. For those of you who don't know where Hakata is, that's in the city of Kyushu Island. That's where all the very famous Hakata style Tonkotsu noodle is originated. And then later, we're gonna teach you how to cook the noodles properly, and then how to serve the bowl of ramen. And then that's gonna be done by some of our instructors. Okay, so let's get started. Yeah, but first introduce our company first. So for those of you who don't know what we do, so we have manufactured noodle making machines that are designed to do some noodles for restaurants, small production, and so we've been doing that for 45 years. And we started offering training courses, udon school, ramen school, soba school, about 20 years ago, because a lot of more and more customers we are getting are becoming more and more amateurs, who have no experience in running restaurants, noodle restaurants. So we thought we had to start teaching it. So we have a school like this in Kagawa, in Tokyo, and then we also have a school in Singapore, and then we are building other schools in different parts of the world right now. And so later we're gonna show you guys introduce our school a little bit, and what we do at our school, what we teach at our school. Yeah, and then we do this kind of class for one day in different parts of the world. We've been doing this in Netherlands, been doing this New York, doing this in Singapore and other places. But because of this current situations with the COVID-19, we thought we should start doing this, offering this kind of class online. And for those of you who are interested, if there's some subject, if there's some topics that you want to learn more about, please feel free to let us know, and we are going to continue to do this kind of class from now on. So please let us know. All right. So we're going to get into the lecture first, and then start making some noodles. Okay. So we did the introduction, and this is just a world map, where our customers are using our machines. So we've been exporting our machines more to more and more countries. Currently, we have customers in 61 countries and then counting. And we also have partners, distributors, different parts of the world. Sorry. So ramen noodles there are many types of ramen noodles. There could be thousands and thousands of different types of ramen noodles. But it's but we usually categorize ramen noodles by hydration ratio, how much water is contained in the dough. Then we're going to touch on that more later. Ingredients, right? And then we're going to talk about production processes and methods. Okay, let's look at this chart, right? So there are many types of noodles, ramen noodles, but we can categorize ramen noodles in this chart. It's the hydration ratio. It's how much water is contained in the noodles. You see this x-axis of this chart, that represents the hydration ratio, like how much. So the left, like from the left, that's like 25%, to like to the right, towards the right, like more water, like 45%. And then vertical y-axis represents like protein content of the flour that's used to make these noodles. So the higher the protein content, the harder the noodle texture. The lower the protein, the softer. And then less water, harder the noodle texture. The more water, softer. And you see that like it's kind of hard to see, but like on the right-hand side corner, like right-hand side, like there's like it says like size, noodle sizes. These are the like size of the cutters that are used to cut these noodles. So like from the top, like 1.0 millimeter, like 2.5 millimeter. That's how thick the noodle is. So you notice this is like a green round circle, like in the upper left corner, like that's called the Hakata ramen. That's the noodle like we're gonna actually make in the noodle making part. You see that's like high in protein content and then low in water content. So that's hard noodle. That's hard noodle. And then you see that's between like 1.1 millimeter and 1.3 millimeter. That's like thin noodle. So like that's thin and hard noodle. But if you look at the like a yellow circle, like on the right, the bottom right corner, it's called like tsukemen noodle, like dipping noodles. So that's really thick noodle that that you dip it in that like an intense like flavored soup and then eat it. So that's like high in water content but low in protein content. So that's soft noodles like that. Like it's very thick, like between like 1.7 millimeter, like 2.5 millimeter. So it's very thick. It's a thick and soft noodle, right? And then you see this chart, like there's where the circles are like kind of scattered around. You see the patterns. So it's either like thin and hard noodle or like thick and soft noodle. There's no like noodles that are like thick and hard or thin and soft, because that's not a good combination for a noodle texture. So you see the pattern. So the texture-wise, like your noodles should fall like somewhere in between, thin and hard, like or thick and soft. Okay. Yeah, I forgot to mention, but like all of these stuff like we are going through are actually available in our blog called like Noodle Master Lab. So for those of you like who want to know more about what we're talking about today, let's please check back in our Noodle Master Lab blog. Okay, let's talk about ingredients. So to make ramen noodles, you just need like 3 ingredients: flour, like wheat flour, and water, and kansui. Let's talk about these. Okay, so the wheat flour, right? This is the most important component of the ramen noodles, because like it composes of like 70% of the like 60%, 70% like the noodle weight. So what's important? Like we all talked about like protein in that chart. So the protein content that makes the noodle harder or softer. So that's like between like 7 and 13%. The less protein, the softer, right? And then ash. There's an ash. This is like amount of minerals like contained in the flour. It's like outer part of like a wheat grain. So they in the milling process, like they try to get rid of like as much of this ash as possible, like in the milling process. But like some are left in that flour. And then the higher the ash, the darker the color of the new noodle is going to be. But we are talking about like 0.5%, like 0.4%. Yeah, Japan, like the flours in Japan, like have like really small percentage of like ash content. But like I guess like overseas, you probably come across like flour with like high ash content, like 0.5%, 0.6%. Yeah, and if you care about like more about like ash content, then I mean the color noodle, like you should find like a flour with like low ash content. Viscosity, the viscosity is like very important too. So it's how elastic the noodle can be. For higher the viscosity, like more elastic the noodles. So viscosity is very important, but it does not show up on the product label. So you need to actually get it tested with the machine. And we actually have this machine like to test this viscosity value. So yeah, we can test it for you, actually free of charge. All right, so that's flour, like protein, ash, viscosity. Those three things like you need to look for like when trying to find a good flour for ramen. And the water is very important too. The kind of water we use is a soft water. Why it's important is that like soft water, hard water, you guys heard of it right before. And then soft water doesn't have like much minerals in it. Hard water has like minerals like magnesium, like calcium, and when you cook noodles, these like all this stuff like salt, like calcium and stuff like that, like are trying to get out of the noodles into cooking water. But if you're using cooking water that's hard, then there's less room, in this like in the illustration for these ingredients to be released to. So you need more room to cook the noodles faster. If you can cook like noodle faster, the better the texture. So the water is very important. And if you have to work with the hard water, then you should you should need to like get the softener installed. All right. Kansi, yeah. So this is kind of something special you need to have like for your noodles to be called like ramen. In Japan, like as a definition, like you have to have like kansi in your noodles to be called ramen. Kansi, basically like there are many types, but like basically the way we use like potassium carbonate and sodium carbonate, combination of them. Potassium carbonate makes the noodles harder and then change the color to the yellow. Sodium carbonate does exactly the opposite. And then like higher the potassium carbonate, and then we sort of like blend them to use it. And then so because potassium carbonate makes the noodle harder, we use more potassium carbonate for thin noodles when we make thin noodles, because we want to make the thin noodle like harder. So we increase the amount of potassium carbonate. And then we'll show you guys all these ingredients later. And then, sorry, there are many other ingredients that are used. Because salt, eggs, egg white, whole eggs like gluten, and the coloring like flavoring, things like, for example, like spinach, like squid ink, like chili, and other types of like grain flour, whole wheat, like rye, yeah, different things like. So you can make basically like unlimited types of like ramen noodles. And yeah, and then like profitability of like ramen noodles is actually pretty high. So like cost of like producing like one serving of ramen noodles like ranges from like maybe like less than 10 cents like in some cases to like 25 cents or so, including the labor cost. So it's very, and then how much you can sell it for, then you can figure out like how much profit you can make. Okay, so let's talk about like different types of ramen noodles by hydration. So we basically categorize ramen noodles by hydration to like three types. So low hydration, like that's like between like 25%, 29%, medium like 30%, 39%, high hydration like over like 40%. So basically like yeah, mixing process, like, so first, like, we mix these, like, ingredients to make dough. So the lower the hydration, the longer we had to mix to make dough properly. And yeah, so you see this in this picture, like, gradually we increase the like amount of like water we added to the flour. And 30%, for example, like 30% hydration means that is that like there's so for 10 kilograms of like flour, we are adding 3 kilograms of like water, liquid, to it. Okay, let's start talking about like production processes. So first, like we weigh ingredients, and this is the like most important process. It's like if you screw up like all the amount, like weight of the ingredients, then you end up like, well, not great noodles. So weighing of ingredients like is very important. The mixing and the resting. So after like we mix it, like we rest the dough like this. So we pre-mix like all these like noodles and dough, and then so just like low water content like 28%. It's like medium water content 35%, high water content like 42%. So you see that like the size of the chunks of the noodles. See, like this is like 28%, almost like a powder, and it's like medium, a bit chunky a little bit, like big chunks. Okay, so like mixing process, like so for low water content noodles, like we mix it for like almost like 15 minutes. So that's a long time, but like you have to like mix it for a little bit to get the like proper ingredient. I mean the dough, and you see it in the picture in the corner, like right hand side corner, like that's the gluten structure of the dough. Like that's like developing in that resting process. So after we mixing, like see that like in that, as you saw, like in a plastic bag, like we put the dough in the plastic bag and let it sit for like a certain amount of time to degas it, and then like help like develop like gluten structure inside the dough. Okay, and next process like wrap forming, and then we're gonna explain these processes like when we actually make noodles later. And then was thinning, like and the cutting, portioning, we'll explain it later. And then cooking. So cooking noodles, like this is actually also on like our blog, but yeah, we'll explain it later, like when we actually cook noodles. But the point is that like you need to have like a lot of water to cook it properly, and then you need to have like good temperature, like 98.6 degrees Celsius or something. Yeah, so that's the yeah, and then let me talk about like this pH level thing. So pH, like acid, like alkaline, neutral. So you need to, when we like do the test, like cooking noodles, like in the water, like that's neutral. A lot of noodles like kind of actually melted in the cooking water, losing a lot of noodles in the water. But like when we cook like light alkaline, the water like that's light alkaline, then the amount of noodles like we lose like that actually was least. So then like chemistry is actually alkaline. So like when you cook noodles, some of the chemistry actually get released to the cooking water, making the water kind of light alkaline. So chemistry works in that kind of way too. So pH level like in the cooking water is important too. Yeah, some of these are noodle sizes are also important. Like when you usually like normal noodle size is actually in the one on the left. So the width is actually bigger than the thickness. Then when there's a cut surface, so the water gets penetrate the noodle like from the side, like the cut surface. But like if you have like noodles that are like with the width like bigger than and smaller than the thickness, then you have like larger cut surface, so the water gets into the noodle like faster, so noodle gets soggy faster. So noodle size is also important. All right, so I think enough with my lecture, and then like so let's start like making noodles, and then so we prepared these ingredients. Yes, so over here like we prepared like flour, that's ramen flour. The protein content is like about like 12%, 13%. Then egg white powder, it's in powder form. Then this is gluten. This is like pure extract of the gluten from the wheat, and water, right? And then salt, then kansi. Kansi, this kansi is like, it's called like aka, like AKA aka kansi, like that's like has a potassium carbonate like 60%, sodium carbonate 40%, that ratio. And here's the actual recipe. So solid ingredients. So we usually like separate like ingredients into like solid and then liquid. So solid ingredients: flour, egg white, gluten, and liquid ingredients like water, kansi, salt. So like kansi salt like dissolved into water, then making the liquid. That's 20% to the solid ingredients. So the total solid like 4,000 grams, liquid like 1,120 grams. Total weight 5,120 grams. All right, so let's start making noodles. All right, so over here we have our noodle making machine. It's called a Ramen 1 machine. Right, then it's got like 10 kilogram mixer. The minimum batch is 4 kilograms. So 4 kilograms of solid. So first, yeah, we'll put in like all the solids. Right, and then we'll start the mixer, and put the timer on. Just 1 minute. 1 minute of like we call like air mixing, like with just solid. And while it does that, I'm gonna dissolve the salt and kansi into the water. Yeah, you need to make sure that they're all like dissolved pretty well in the water. Yeah, important thing about like mixing is that like, so this mixer mixes at the speed of like 60 rotations per minute, and that's the ideal, like, you know, through like our like years of research development, like we found out that that's the proper like ideal speed for like mixing dough for noodles. Okay, and then so we add water. You see the holes, right? Holes in the lid. So you need to add like water, like little by little. So the water goes through the holes to be like drip through the wall, holes to be added to the flour like bit by bit. And like while it's mixing, so like it's very yeah, important to have those holes. Okay, so first like we mix it for 4 minutes, and then like after that we'll open it and then kind of clean them. Because like there are some parts of the dough like that's more wet than the others. So we need like kind of like mix them up and then like kind of have that water like distributed like evenly. Okay. So but we can't just wait for it like because it's gonna be, I don't want to bore you guys. So let's start doing the next process. So after mixing, right? So we did a resting, like first resting, and so you see this dough, right? That's really, it's really dry. Yeah, I wish you guys could touch so I feel the dough. It's almost like a wet flour, like it's very powdery, very dry, which means that like this dough is like very hard. So to process this kind of dough, like you need to have like certain equipment, like this kind of machine with a bigger roller. So first, like what we're gonna do is that like we're gonna feed this dough into a set of rollers, and through kind of like narrow gap of these like between these rollers to make a rough sheet of dough. So we set this is the dial, this dial, see, like it controls like a clearance between the two rollers, and then now it's 0, but like yeah, rotating it to like make the roller gap like 1 millimeter. Okay, so let's start rolling. And we're going kind of slow first to apply like really good, that like really high pressure like in this dough. So we want to go slow. Yeah, so the dough came out from the other end, and yeah, and then like we're gonna roll it on like rolling pin, wind it on the rolling pin, and then just yeah, let it wind automatically. Yeah, just so feeding it, and then yeah, but like we want to go slow in this process. Yeah, if some of you guys like had been to one of those like Hakata ramen shops, like famous shops like Ippudo, like Ichiran, so they serve this kind of noodles. It's very thin and hard noodles, and then they serve it in like very thick, like rich tonkotsu. Tonkotsu means like pork bone broth, and yeah, so this. Yeah, and then like I'm just adding the rest of the water, and then we're gonna mix it for like 11 more minutes. Yeah, so it's very thin and hard noodle, and it's like, but like you are eating it in like very rich pork bone broth, and then they cook the pork bones like for like almost like 10 hours, like 12 hours. Yeah, some shops like cook it for like over 20 hours, like for a long time. It's very thick, rich, but like the noodle itself is like kind of very hard and like thin, and they serve it. They like portion size is like very small on purpose, because like this type of noodles like gets very soft fast in the hot soup, so they want to want you to like enjoy the texture. They want you to enjoy the texture, right? So they want to when you like eat it fast, and then like encourage you like order more portion. Okay, so we're doing the combining process. So after that previous process was called like rough forming. So like we are making just rough sheet of dough first, and then like we are gonna separate the dough like into like two separate sheets, and then combine them through the rollers to basically to like make it like stronger, make it firmer. And because like that was 1 millimeter, and then we are combining them. So combining means like 1 millimeter plus 1 millimeter equivalent of dough, like it was going into through the roller. So we set the roller gap to 1.5 millimeter. Okay. We don't want to thin it too drastically because like that would like destroy the gluten structure that that's developed through the mixing and like resting process. So we want to like kind of gradually thin. So we apply this rule called like 70% rule. So we multiply the like a thickness by 70%, and then so that we make it. So we make that number the roller gap of that sheeting. So to calculate it, right? So like 1 plus 1, 2 millimeter, then 0.7, 70%, 0.7, so 1.4, or like for the sake of simplicity, like just round it up to 1.5 millimeter. And then like at this time again, like we want to go slow. Because we want to apply like really good pressure at this process, the dough. Yes, and then so next round, like we're gonna do another combining process to make sure that like we have like good like very firm little texture. So that was like 1.5 millimeter, and then we like separating again to two separate sheets of dough, but like we combine them like through the roller, right? So that's 1.5 millimeter, 1.5 millimeter, like 3 millimeter equivalent dough is going through the roller. So the roller gap we are setting it to is like 2 millimeter. So 3 millimeter times 70%, like 0.7, 2.1. But for the sake of simplicity, like we round it down to 2.0. Yeah, so it's so combining process makes the dough stronger, and then like for certain types of like noodles that like they just do the combining process like once. For other types of noodles, like they do the combining process like twice, I mean 3 times. But basically like that's twice. And from this point on, we should turn on this is the automatic duster. So this is the dusting. It's like after second combining process, we don't want this dough to stick together, right? So we want to run this kind of duster, right? But like for this kind of noodle, like you don't actually have to dust it. You don't actually have to dust it because like it's just dry enough. Like there's no risk of like getting it like stuck. Okay, so that was 2 millimeter, right? So remember the 70% rule. So we are multiply them by 70%, like 0.7. 2 times 0.7, like 0.4, but like run it up to like 1.7, 1.5. Okay, and then like from this point on, we can go faster. We can go faster rolling. Okay, let's see. But like just for you guys to see, right? I'm going to turn on the duster, and you can actually control the like volume of dusting. Control the volume of dusting. So the wetter the noodle, like the more you need to dust, right? So you can control the dusting. Okay, so that was 1.5 millimeter, and I think we can almost start cutting it, but like, let's do it one more time, like 1.0 millimeters, like 1.5 times like 0.7. I can't do the calculation in my head, but like, you know, it's around 1.0 millimeter. So we can go through like 1.0 millimeter. And the next round, we're gonna thin and cut at the same time, and then portion it. And the kind of cutters, so it's gonna be cutting, right? The kind of cutters that we use is this kind of cutters, like, and there are different types, different sizes, different shapes. So this like number 10 means like this each group is 3 millimeter. Each group is 3 millimeter. That's like, it's called like square number 10. Square number 12. And then like 20 is like actually the most popular one. That's 1.5 millimeter. 22, 24. So 24 is very thin. That's like 1.1 millimeter. And then 26 is almost like 1.0. So the cutter we're going to use to cut that dough is 26. All right, so let's bring it over here. And yeah, the thickness, right? Thickness dough is actually bigger than the you know, the roller gap that we set, because like the moment like it's going through the roller gap, it's actually 1.0, but like it's, you know, like after that, like it just expands back. So the actual thickness of dough is actually, it was always bigger than the roller gap. Okay, let's start cutting. Yeah, so putting the cutter over there and that in place, and then put that, the cutter mode, and then yeah, prepare the like conveyor belt, right? And then you have this nice little low chair that's in the caster, like it's like move around. Okay, the mixing is done. So we put the duster on top of like this conveyor belt, like to dust the noodles that are coming out. Okay, so let's start cutting. And then you can actually control the length of the noodles here, longer, shorter. So the longer, actually bigger the noodle portion. So depending on your shop, like depending on like, you know, the shop's preference, like, you know, you can make it shorter, longer. You can control the length. By controlling length, you're controlling the noodle serving size. Okay, noodles coming now. So as I said, this type of noodles, typically they make the serving size like really small, almost like 80 grams to like 100 grams on purpose. You know, for you guys to, I mean, for customers to be able to like enjoy the noodle texture. And then we're going to talk about, we're going to show you guys later how to cook noodles properly. But like, so this type of noodles are very short amount of cooking time. It's usually like 10 seconds to like almost like 60 seconds. And then for those of you like who've been to like Hakata style ramen noodles shops, some of you like maybe like notice like in the menu they have they can let you choose you know how you'd like the noodles to be cooked. So you know for those of you like who prefer like hard texture, they can cook the noodles like for like 20 seconds. For some people like you know who prefer like softer texture, you know they cook it for like 1 minute or something. So it's kind of interesting. And then, and we want to show you how. I mean, some people like wonder like you know how you can make the noodles like curly, like wavy. So we like to show like how you do it. So in the cutter, right? This is number 16 cutter. On the back of the cutter, like we have like a plate, like silicone plates, and then the noodles are like try to come out, right? But like noodles get stuck, right? A little bit stuck, and then like kind of noodles, and then the noodles like are getting stuck, and they're like kind of get pushed out, like from the next noodles like that are going in. Then in the process, like the noodles get curly. Let me show you. And so this dough is actually like it's very yellow. So we put the put some dye in there, like pigment, to make it yellow. You can't make this color like by adding like eggs or something. You have to like have like some kind of dye in it. All right, so let's start cutting. So it comes out like that, and then you see like it's almost like instant noodles. And so the level of colorness you can actually control by using like different like thickness, plate of thickness, different size of thickness, and then like control like adjusting the gap between those like plates. So it's kind of what we had like for noodle making process. But like you see these noodles, different types of noodles like we made today actually. So this is like 42% whole grain needed noodles. Like it's actually has a blend of like udon noodles, like which has like lower protein content but like higher viscosity, and ramen noodles, which has like higher protein but like lower viscosity, and it has like very good like unique like texture, noodle texture. This is the same kind of dough that we did like for the just for now. And this is seaweed powder kneaded noodles, and this is like chili powder kneaded noodles, so different sizes. This is black sesame noodles. You can do with like squid ink as well. So it's got like different flavors, different like color. So it's kind of interesting. So you can actually like make all kinds of noodles, all different kinds of noodles. I could say like your imagination is like probably the limit, but like you can make like any kind of noodles. So let's go over to our kitchen and start cooking some noodles and show you guys like how to cook noodles properly. Okay, welcome to our kitchen. We do ramen school here and udon school here. And then you see we have like all these like different equipment. So over there, like you have like these are like induction cookers, and then like we cook like different types of like soups, broth. And in each pot will be like cooking like different ingredients. So then like later like we combine them so that the students know like how each of the ingredients broth like tastes like, and then they know like how to combine them. Over here we have different types of like, this is a tare motodare, like with the different ingredients, salt like soy sauce, like fish sauce, like different types. Like we usually make like 40 to like 50 different types like tare, like from scratch. And it's like oil, flavored oil, like different types, like different ingredients. So like each school, like each class, like we do like all these different types of like broth, tare, and then like oil, and then like each student like goes home like with a complete set of like recipes, so that and then like we've been running this like school like for 20 years, and each school, each class has like different students, like different ideas. So they we've been accumulating all these like different recipes, like different ideas. So we have like a huge database of like recipes, like noodles, soups, everything. So yeah, after this thing is over, like I hope you guys will be able to like visit us in Kagawa headquarters, but like and then visit his school. We'll give you guys a tour. All right. So I'm gonna introduce our instructors. So Mr. Ikeda. Mr. Ikeda is like being like our chief instructor, like our school. And Mr. Ikeda, the chief instructor. And then Mr. Takeuchi. Yeah, he's actually from Canada, and like he speaks like native English, so and then Japanese. And then I'm gonna ask him to do the cooking part. Because like he speaks English. Mr. Sang, would you introduce yourself? And then he speaks Chinese and Japanese. So I'm gonna hand it over to Mr. Takeuchi.
Hello, my name is Seiya Takeuchi, and I'm one of the instructors at the Yamato Noodle School. And I'm gonna show you guys how to finish the bowl ramen. So I'm just gonna use the noodles that you guys made today. And the elements that we have here is that flavored oil and flavoring sauce. In Japanese, we call it moto dare. And we got sliced leeks and green onion and soft boiled eggs, and it's flavored in soy sauce. And we got bamboo shoots. Okay. And I'm just going to quickly talk about how to boil the ramen noodles. It's not just putting these into the boiling water. There's some important tips for boiling the perfect ramen noodles. And first, you need rapidly boiling water. Okay? And you need a lot. You can't just have a little, because it's just going to clump up the ramen noodles. So you got this rapidly boiling water, and for these ramen noodles, probably boiling time will be around 1.5 minutes. Okay? And before putting the ramen noodles into boiling water, what you want to do is you want to like massage the noodles a little so it break up the noodles. And then when you want to put it in, you just don't want to just dump it in. You just want to like break it apart as you put it in and start the timer. And maybe for the first 5 seconds, you want to mix the noodles. Once again, this is to prevent the noodles from clumping up. You never want clumped up noodles. Okay, as we wait for the noodles to boil, we want to prepare the sauce. Okay, this is a flavoring sauce and flavored oil. And I'm heating up the stock over here. We're just going to make a quick, simple shoyu ramen, soy sauce flavored ramen. Okay. So I'm pouring in 300 milliliters of the stock. This is pork stock. Okay, 30 more seconds. As you can see, the noodles are moving around in the boiling water freely. Okay. Now it's 1.5 minutes. And next important tip is to strain out all the boiling water. You don't want boiling water to stay in the noodles because that's going to dilute the stock. So strain out every single boiling water. And then you want to dump this noodles into the stock, but make sure you don't start from the outside, start from the inside, because that's just going to, pour out the stock. So from the inside, and mix the noodles. And you want to line up the noodles. And lining up the noodles is not just for the looks. It allows the customer to pick up the noodles easier. Okay. Next, soft-boiled eggs and sliced leeks. Green onion, and some bamboo shoots. And bamboo shoots is great for changing up the texture in your mouth because the noodles are chewy and the soup is silky, and you want that bamboo shoots has a nice bite to it, so it just changes up the texture in your mouth. Okay, so here's a simple bowl of shoyu ramen. I wanted to have some chashu in here, but we didn't have that right now, so just a quick shoyu ramen with eggs, bamboo shoots, and leek, and a green onion. So we just boiled the noodles for shoyu ramen, so that was about 1.5 minutes. And let me just quickly talk about the boiling time for the Hakata Tonkotsu noodles. And these are very thin, so the boiling time is very short. Approximately around 30 to 40 seconds. And when you boil these, once again, you need rapidly boiling water. Okay? You want the noodles to move around freely in the boiling water. And then after 30 seconds, make sure to strain out every single boiling water out of the noodles.